The small town of Greenwood, Texas was bathed in the gentle spring sunshine. At 3 in the afternoon, Dorothy Brown finished her shift at the pediatric ward of the local hospital and took a deep breath as she passed through the clinic's automatic doors. The scent of bluebonnets, just beginning to bloom, drifted on the breeze. She had completed a busy 12-hour shift at the nurse's station and could finally look forward to spending the weekend with her family. In her 10 years as a nurse, Dorothy had seen all kinds of patients. Her warm smile and calm demeanor earned the trust of both children and parents alike. Though signs of fatigue showed in her brown hair pulled back in a ponytail, her hazel eyes still maintained their kindness today. As she got into her car, during the 20-minute drive home, she found herself lost in thought. Her husband Jason had seemed different lately. He worked as a site supervisor at a local construction company. His strong build, brown eyes, and handsome features had attracted Dorothy from the moment they first met. When Jason appeared in her life 2 years ago while she was struggling as a single mother, he seemed like the embodiment of the American dream. "I need to pick up Emily," she murmured, glancing at the clock. Looking at her tired face in the rearview mirror, she reapplied her lip gloss. When Dorothy arrived at the Happy Kids daycare, her 6-year-old daughter Emily was already waiting outside. The sight of her daughter with her golden curls bouncing and her small pink backpack filled Dorothy's heart with warmth. "Mommy!" Emily ran over and wrapped her arms around Dorothy's waist. "How was your day, young lady?" Dorothy asked, stroking her daughter's head. Same as usual," Emily's voice was a bit quiet. Before, she would have rattled off the day's events without pausing for breath. Once in the car, Emily was quieter than usual. Over the past few weeks, she had gradually become more withdrawn. The daycare teacher had mentioned, "She seems a bit down," but Dorothy thought it was just a temporary change in her development. When they arrived home, Jason's work truck was already in the parking lot. Dorothy was surprised. Normally, he wouldn't return until around 6 in the evening. "Daddy's home," Dorothy said, and Emily's expression hardened for just a moment. It was only for an instant, then she immediately called out, "Daddy," and ran into the house. In the living room, Jason was watching television. When Emily came running in, he lifted her up. "Hey, princess. Were you a good girl today?" "Yes," Emily buried her face in Jason's shoulder. "You're home early today," Dorothy said, giving Jason a kiss. "Yes," the site got rained out, Jason couldn't quite hide his irritation. "Postpone till tomorrow." "But the boss said he won't pay us for today." Dorothy noticed the wrinkles between her husband's eyebrows. Recently, perhaps due to stress at work, Jason had become quick to anger. He had started throwing things and raising his voice more often at home, but she considered it temporary. "Is dinner ready yet?" Jason asked. "I'm sorry, I was on night shift." "I'll make it right away," Dorothy answered. Jason sighed. "It's fine, I'll order a pizza." "Emily, want to watch TV with Dad?" Emily nodded slightly. Dorothy was a bit concerned but went upstairs to take a shower. The phone rang. It was Dorothy's mother, Helen, who lived on the other side of town and frequently visited her daughter and granddaughter. "How's Emily?" "Still in that quiet state." Helen's voice was tinged with worry. "Yes, but I'm sure it's just a temporary phase in her growth." "And, what about Jason?" Dorothy hesitated for a moment. She was aware of her mother's misgivings about Jason. Helen always said, "That man's smile seems unnatural." "Mom, Jason loves us. His job is demanding." "Yes, I suppose so," Helen didn't sound convinced. "May I take Emily to the park tomorrow?" "Of course. Emily would love that." Hanging up the phone, Dorothy looked out the window. The Texas twilight was beautiful. Yet an indescribable anxiety was creeping into her heart. Her first marriage to Marcus had failed, but life with Jason was supposed to be different. He seemed kind to Emily, like an ideal father. I thought I wouldn't make a mistake the second time, she whispered. But was that really true? Dorothy shook off her worries and headed to the living room where her family was waiting.
Do you know some people earn over $10,000 a month just by posting Reddit stories on YouTube? No face, no voice, just a laptop. I do it too. Link below if you're curious.
Dorothy finished her Friday night shift and returned home at 8 on Saturday morning. Dragging her tired body through the front door, there was no smell of breakfast in the quiet house. Usually, on weekend mornings, Jason would be making pancakes or waffles by now. Jason? Emily, she called out. Her husband's response came from the living room. Good morning. Emily's still sleeping. When Dorothy entered the living room, she saw Jason reading the newspaper while drinking coffee. That's unusual. Emily's usually up by 7. She was a bit feverish last night. So I put her to bed early, Jason answered without looking up from his newspaper. Fever? How high? Dorothy's nursing instincts kicked in, and her fatigue vanished in an instant. Nothing serious. Jason finally looked up from his newspaper. You worry too much, Dorothy. I was watching her. Dorothy stopped herself from arguing back and poured a cup of coffee. I'll go check on her, she said, heading upstairs. When she quietly opened the door to Emily's room, her daughter was still asleep. Her golden curls spread across the pillow, illuminated by the morning sun shining through the curtains. Dorothy sat gently on the bed and placed her hand on her daughter's forehead. It was indeed a bit warm, but not enough to indicate a fever. Emily, want to wake up? Mommy's home. Emily slowly opened her eyes. Mommy, she said in a small voice. My tummy hurts a little. What kind of pain? Dorothy gently touched her daughter's abdomen. It's okay now. It hurt last night. Emily tried to sit up. Daddy told me you had a fever. Is that true? Yes. Emily's response was vague. Daddy said I'd need a shot if I didn't go to bed early. Dorothy frowned. She couldn't imagine Jason saying such a thing. He wasn't the type to frighten children with talk of injections. Did Daddy say that? Emily nodded. Was Daddy angry? No, he wasn't angry, Dorothy answered, but her sense of unease was growing. Come on, let's get up. I'll make breakfast. Then we'll take a bath, okay? Bath. Emily's voice trembled. Don't scrub hard like Daddy does. Dorothy caught her breath. What did Daddy do? Emily fell silent. At that moment, they heard footsteps coming up the stairs, and Jason appeared at the door. Hey, princess, you're awake. His voice was cheerful, with yesterday's irritation gone. Good morning, Daddy, Emily said in a small voice. Let's go shopping today. I'll buy you that doll you wanted, Jason suggested, leaning against the doorframe. Really? Emily's eyes lit up for a moment. Promise, Jason winked. Dorothy, want more coffee? No, I'm fine, Dorothy answered. I'll give Emily a bath, then make breakfast. I'll give her a bath, Jason offered. No. Emily suddenly cried out. I want Mommy. A silence fell over the room. Jason's expression stiffened for a moment. Fine. Let Mommy do it, he said and left the room. Dorothy took Emily to the bathroom and began removing her clothes. As she lifted her pajama top, she gasped. Across Emily's entire back, a strange pattern of rashes had spread. Red spots in regular shapes were arranged as if something had rubbed against them. Emily, there's something on your back. Doesn't it hurt? Dorothy asked, keeping her voice low. It's just a little itchy. But I'm okay, Mommy, Emily answered, looking slightly anxious. How long has this been here? I don't know. Emily looked away. Dorothy grew concerned seeing her daughter's expression. She looked like she was hiding something, or afraid. Emily, can you tell Mommy? Did something happen? Emily remained silent and shook her head slightly. Dorothy wanted to hug her daughter, but was afraid to touch the rash on her back. It's okay. Mommy's here with you. After the bath, Dorothy called Jason to the kitchen. There's a strange rash on Emily's back. Did you see it? Jason answered while toasting bread. Yes, I noticed it yesterday. Probably some kind of allergy. It has a regular pattern. Like it was. Dorothy chose her words carefully. Like it was scrubbed with something. Jason's hands paused for a moment. What are you trying to say? His voice was low and cold. Nothing. I'm just concerned, so I thought we should take her to the hospital. It's Saturday. It can wait until Monday. But the rash might be spreading, Dorothy insisted. I'm a nurse. I think this should be checked. Jason put the bread on a plate and spread jam with forceful strokes of the knife. Fine. But I'm coming too. Of course, Dorothy responded, but she felt uneasy about her husband's reaction. After breakfast, the three headed to the local hospital. Jason was silent in the car. When Emily asked in a small voice from the back seat, "Daddy, are you mad?" Jason forced a smile and said, "Daddy's fine. Don't worry." But to Dorothy, his smile seemed unnatural. At the hospital, Dorothy explained Emily's symptoms to the receptionist. Though she didn't work at this hospital, she was known as a healthcare professional in the area. The waiting room was unusually empty for a Saturday morning. When Emily said she needed to use the restroom, Dorothy took her daughter along. Jason said, "Hurry back," and remained in the waiting room. Inside the ladies' restroom, as they entered a stall, Emily suddenly grabbed her mother's arm. "Mommy," she whispered, "I'll tell you when Daddy's not around." Dorothy knelt down to meet her daughter's eyes. What? What happened? When Daddy gives me a bath, he scrubs with a brush. It hurts, Emily's eyes filled with tears. Daddy says, this is a special massage, but... Dorothy was shocked, but before she could hear more, their names were called, and it was time to go to the examination room. We'll talk more later. Don't worry about anything now, she told her daughter. A doctor was waiting in the examination room. I'm Dr. Harris, she introduced herself, smiling kindly at Emily. What seems to be the problem today? While Dorothy explained about the rash on Emily's back, Jason leaned against the wall with his arms crossed. Dorothy noticed that his gaze was constantly fixed on Emily, and he slightly furrowed his brow whenever their daughter tried to say something. Can I see the rash? Dr. Harris asked Emily gently. Emily hesitantly lifted her shirt. The doctor's expression stiffened for a moment. She narrowed her eyes behind her glasses, carefully observing the rash. How long have you noticed this? I first saw it this morning, Dorothy answered. When I got home from my night shift and was about to give her a bath. I see, the doctor said quietly. She took out a penlight and carefully illuminated each part of the rash. Does it hurt? Itch? The doctor asked Emily directly. It's a little itchy, Emily answered in a small voice. While Dr. Harris carefully examined the pattern of the rash, she continued asking, have you eaten any new foods? Used any new clothes or detergent? It's probably an allergy, Jason suddenly interrupted. We recently started using a new soap. The doctor looked at Jason and nodded quietly. That's a possibility, she turned back to Emily. Is there anything else bothering you? How are you feeling? Emily looked at her mom. Dorothy nodded gently and placed her hand on her daughter's shoulder. You said your tummy hurt last night, didn't you? She had a fever too, Jason added. That's why I put her to bed early. The doctor wrote something in the chart and turned back to Emily. Emily, do you remember how you got this rash? Did you rub against something? Bump into something? Emily shook her head silently. Jason stepped forward and raised his voice. What are you saying? I told you it's an allergy. I'm just exploring all possibilities, Mr. Brown, the doctor responded calmly. Looking alternately at Dorothy and Jason, she said, it's probably an allergic reaction. I'll prescribe an ointment, and let's see how it goes. However, her eyes seemed to be conveying a different message. Dorothy sensed a mutual understanding between professionals in that gaze. She tried to understand what the doctor was trying to say, but Jason's presence weighed heavily on her. If it doesn't improve after 3 days, please come back, the doctor said while writing a prescription. And she deliberately paused. You might want to make a follow-up appointment at the front desk. After the examination, Dorothy took Emily's hand and walked out into the hallway. Jason followed. Waste of time, he muttered. We knew it was an allergy from the start. Just to be sure, Dorothy replied. She held Emily's hand a little tighter. Her daughter's hand was cold and trembling. On their way to the checkout counter, Dorothy saw Dr. Harris whispering something to the nurse's station. The doctor was looking toward the reception desk. A woman in her 50s sat at the reception desk. Her name tag read Linda Morrison. When the three approached, she smiled kindly, especially at Emily. Your copay with insurance is $30, Linda said. When Dorothy handed over her credit card, Linda returned the medical card along with the receipt. Her movements were more deliberate than usual, as if she was intentionally taking her time. Would you like to make your next appointment? Linda asked, but Jason interrupted with, not necessary. But we might need to monitor the rash, Dorothy said, to which Jason replied in a low voice, I'll decide. His eyes were cold, mismatched with the smile on his face. Could you fill out some forms for me? Linda suddenly said, handing Dorothy a clipboard. It looked like a standard insurance update form. When Jason impatiently said, hurry up and finish, Linda suggested, Sir, there's free coffee in the waiting room. And young lady, there's juice available too. Her voice was gentle but persuasive. Jason reluctantly took Emily's hand, saying to Dorothy, I'll get us drinks then. Finish up quickly, before walking away. Once Linda confirmed Jason was out of sight, she quickly began writing a note. Here are the forms, she said while slipping a small piece of paper into Dorothy's medical card. Make sure you read this, she whispered. When Dorothy looked at her with surprise, Linda signaled with her eyes, not now. Not at home either, but right now, though not in front of him. Though disturbed, Dorothy maintained her composure and filled out the forms. Meanwhile, Linda pretended to answer phone calls while occasionally looking at Dorothy and nodding slightly. After submitting the forms, Dorothy headed to the waiting room. Stopping by the restroom, she checked the medical card and found a small note tucked inside. Take your child and go to the police immediately. Now. Dorothy clutched the note with trembling hands. She didn't understand what was happening, but she realized it was a warning to protect her child. She took a deep breath, trying to regain her composure. Her face in the bathroom mirror was pale, with fear visible in her eyes. What should I do? She whispered. If her intuition was correct, her daughter was in danger. But she still didn't fully understand what it was. What if she was wrong? What if, as Jason said, it was just an allergy? For a moment, she doubted her judgment. But 10 years of experience as a nurse told her that rash was not a normal allergic reaction. And Emily's words, Daddy scrubs with a brush, repeated in her head. Dorothy rolled the note into a small ball and put it in her pocket. She lightly washed her face with water and told herself in the mirror, You are strong. It's your job to protect Emily. When she returned to the waiting room, Jason and Emily were drinking juice. Emily's expression was tense, her smile gone beside Jason. He had his hand on the girl's shoulder, and his fingers seemed to be gripping her shoulder a bit too tightly. All done? Jason asked. Yes, we can leave now, Dorothy answered, feigning calmness. She took Emily's hand, adding, we need to go to the pharmacy. We have to pick up the prescribed ointment. We can just use the pharmacy at this hospital, Jason said. No, the one near our house is cheaper, Dorothy immediately answered. Also, I forgot to call my mother. She was worried about Emily's rash. Jason frowned. Now? Yes, now. We might meet Mom at the pharmacy. She always shops there on weekends, Dorothy replied, choosing her words carefully. She held her daughter's hand firmly as they headed for the exit. When her eyes met Linda's, the receptionist nodded slightly. Her eyes conveyed a message, be brave. In her heart, Dorothy thanked this ordinary receptionist. The fact that someone had the courage to sound the alarm on another person's crisis was proof that there was still hope in this world. On the way to the parking lot, Emily asked in a small voice, Mommy, what's wrong? You look scared. Dorothy stopped and looked into her daughter's eyes. Emily, Mommy will do anything to protect you. Do you understand? Emily nodded silently. In her eyes shone a wisdom trying to understand the situation, despite her young age. Jason caught up with the two and asked, what are you talking about? Girls' secrets, Dorothy answered, feigning as much naturalness as possible. In her mind, she was preparing for what was about to happen. The words written on the small piece of paper repeated in her head. Take your child and go to the police immediately. Now. The warning note kept flashing in Dorothy's mind. She felt her heartbeat quicken as she tried to think clearly. Jason sat in the driver's seat and started the engine. His profile was rigid, and the knuckles of his hands gripping the steering wheel had turned white. Straight home? Jason asked. Dorothy took a deep breath. No, let's stop at the pharmacy first. We need to pick up Emily's ointment. Did you get a prescription? There was a hint of suspicion in Jason's voice. Yes, of course, Dorothy pulled the prescription from her bag. It was indeed written by Dr. Harris. And I forgot to call my mother. She was worried about Emily's rash. Now? Jason said grumpily. Yes, now. And we also need to stop at the pharmacy. We need to pick up Emily's medicine. Dorothy realized she was repeating herself, but her mind wasn't working properly. Jason reluctantly agreed. He glanced at Emily in the rearview mirror. Are you okay, princess? Emily nodded, but her eyes remained fearful. Dorothy took out her cell phone and called her mother. Mom, it's me, she tried to sound normal. Emily's not feeling well. Yes, we just came from the hospital. Helen's worried voice could be heard. Dorothy continued, Mom, come to the police station. We're heading there now. What? Helen's voice mixed with surprise. Yes, Greenwood Police Station. We should be there in about 30 minutes, Dorothy said. Jason looked at Dorothy. Police station? What are you talking about? Oh, sorry. I mean the shopping center next to the pharmacy, Dorothy responded quickly. Mom, let's meet there. She hung up, feeling like her chest would burst. She wasn't good at lying, but right now, her and her daughter's safety was the priority. We'll be at the pharmacy in about 10 minutes, Dorothy said, checking her seatbelt. She signaled with her eyes to Emily in the back seat, who nodded slightly in return. Jason turned up the volume on the radio. Country music filled the car, and nobody spoke. Dorothy's fingers clutched the note in her pocket. She still couldn't fully believe it. For 2 years, she thought she had a happy marriage. She believed Jason was an ideal husband and a good father to Emily. That belief was now crumbling before her eyes. When they arrived at the pharmacy, Dorothy said, I'll take Emily with me. It's a girl thing, leaving Jason in the car. Taking Emily's hand, she walked through the pharmacy's automatic doors. As soon as they entered, she rushed to the counter and approached the pharmacist on duty. "I need help," she said in a low, urgent voice. "My husband, my daughter." It was difficult to get the words out. The pharmacist quickly assessed the situation and nodded. "Please come to the office in the back," he said, signaling to his staff with his eyes. Dorothy took Emily to the back. "This is an emergency. Please call the police," she told the pharmacy manager. The manager replied, "We already did." The woman at the counter sensed the situation and called as soon as you came in. Dorothy breathed a sigh of relief. She told Emily, "This is an important adventure. You're coming with Mommy. Stay quiet," and hugged her daughter. Jason, unable to wait any longer, entered the pharmacy. "Where are they?" he shouted loudly, searching the store. "Dorothy. Emily." The pharmacy staff calmly answered, "They're in the back confirming the prescription." By then, a police vehicle on patrol had arrived at the back door of the pharmacy without sirens. Dorothy and Emily were escorted by a police officer and got into the patrol car. "Mrs. Brown, your child is safe now," a young female officer said. "We're heading to the station, but please explain on the way." At the pharmacy, Jason had started causing a commotion. "Where are my wife and daughter?" he shouted, and a uniformed police officer approached him. "Please calm down, sir," the officer said. "Your wife and daughter are in a safe place." "What?" Jason's face turned red. "What right do you have to take my family away?" "Mr. Brown, please calm down. We need you to come to the police station," the officer said calmly but firmly. At the police station, Dorothy and Emily were protected, and Helen, Dorothy's mother, had already arrived and was waiting. "Dorothy! Emily!" Helen embraced them tightly. "What on earth is happening?" "Mom, I'll explain later," Dorothy said, catching her breath. "Right now, we need to take care of Emily." They were led to an interview room. Detective Roberts, female, 40s, took pictures of Emily's rash and carefully listened to their story. "This is clearly a sign of abuse," Detective Roberts said, showing the photos of Emily's back on a tablet screen. "This pattern was made with a special brush or tool." Dorothy trembled and said, "I can't believe it. Jason." She lost her words, sat down in a chair, and covered her face with her hands. "Actually, your husband has been involved in a similar incident in another town," Detective Roberts continued quietly. "He was reported for abusing his ex-wife's child, but there wasn't enough evidence to prosecute." "Ex-wife?" Dorothy looked up. "He never mentioned being divorced." "Unfortunately, he seems to have hidden many things," Detective Roberts said, placing the tablet on the table. "Is your daughter okay? Would she be willing to talk to us a little?" Emily sat on Helen's lap and asked in a small voice, "Mommy, can I talk?" "Of course, Emily," Dorothy answered, wiping away tears. "No matter what, Mommy and Grandma are here for you." Emily received professional counseling and finally began to tell the truth. "Daddy said, this is a special massage. He said not to tell anyone. When I cried because it hurt, he would scrub harder." Dorothy's heart felt like it would shatter. She held her mother's hand tightly and listened intently as her daughter courageously spoke. 3 months later, on an autumn afternoon, Dorothy was preparing dinner in the kitchen of her new apartment. The setting sun streaming through the window dyed the room orange, and the curtains swayed in the gentle breeze. "Emily, have you finished your homework?" she called toward the living room. "Almost." Emily's cheerful voice came back. Dorothy smiled. Emily was continuing psychological counseling and gradually regaining her spirits. The frequency of nightmares had decreased, and she was interacting more with friends at school. The rash on her back had completely disappeared, but it would still take time for the emotional wounds to heal. The phone rang, and Dorothy looked at the display before answering. "Hello, Linda." Dorothy, are you ready for today's meeting? Linda's voice, the receptionist from before, came through the phone. Yes, I've prepared the slides. My mother is coming to look after Emily, so I think I can be there by 6. In court, Jason was found guilty and received a long sentence. Investigations revealed that he had a history of similar abuse in 2 other towns, and had moved away each time to escape. In prison, he was targeted by other inmates as a child abuser, and was moved to solitary confinement. Dorothy had deepened her relationship with Linda, the hospital receptionist, and learned that Linda was involved in child abuse prevention activities. My sister suffered the same kind of abuse. When I saw that pattern of rash, I knew immediately. Dr. Harris noticed too and alerted me. Linda had testified to the police. Inspired by Linda's courage, Dorothy also began participating in a local support group. Tonight, she was scheduled to share her experience in public for the first time at their meeting. Without that note, things might have gotten much worse, Dorothy had thanked Linda many times. Silence only protects the abuser. No one helped my sister. That's why I decided to speak up, Linda had replied. Dr. Harris also joined the support activities and began conducting training for medical professionals on early detection of abuse signs. The 3 women were bound by a strong bond. Mommy, look at this. Emily came running in from the living room. She was holding a picture she had just drawn. It showed 3 women and a little girl holding hands. This is our new family. Dorothy took the picture and pressed it to her chest. It's a beautiful drawing, she said. Truly beautiful. The doorbell rang, and Helen came in. Are you ready? She asked her daughter. Yes, though I'm a bit nervous, Dorothy answered. Your story will be a hope for people in the same situation. Helen placed her hand on her daughter's shoulder. Dorothy picked up her coat and kissed Emily. Stay with Grandma. I'll be back soon. Before leaving the apartment, she looked at herself in the mirror by the entrance. There stood a different woman than before. A strong, wise mother who would do anything to protect her daughter. True family isn't about blood ties, but about people who protect and love each other. She repeated part of the speech she had prepared for tonight's presentation in her mind. Dorothy closed the door and took a step toward her new life.